Hey guys, it's Dawn and I'm back today with a Copic tutorial. So I tend to focus on techniques or mediums and then I obsess over them and I have to do them a million times until I feel like I've gotten them down. So lately it has been Copic markers and I really wanted to learn how to do hair. So I went on a search for the perfect image and I found one at Saturated Canary. It's called Hairy Situation and it is perfect for honing your hair coloring skills. So I went ahead and printed this. I did my practice runs. I posted a picture on Instagram and many of you wanted to know how I did it. So that's what I'm going to show you today is how I color hair. I've printed this image out at 40% opacity. There it's 40%. You can see here at the bottom that's at 100%. And we're going to be using E50, E42, E43, and E47. And that actually, those colors will give you a variety of different hair colors if you just switch up the amount or the order in which you color them. Now, when I color hair, I like to start in sections. So I will color in my base color on just a section of the hair. This helps me to get more realism because I can follow the direction of the lines. So I start by laying down my base color in my first section that I'm going to color. And I'm going to go back and forth between speeding this up and real time just so that we can shorten this and I don't bore you guys to death. And once we've mapped out our section, we can go ahead and move to our deeper colors. Once we've laid down our color and we've mapped out our first section, it's time to move to some deeper colors. Now traditionally most people would go from light to medium to dark. I actually like to skip to my darkest or my second to darkest color. Now I do this because if I go from light to medium to dark, I know it's a given that my image is going to end up much darker than I intended it to. I'm usually going to end up having to go either a shade or two darker for my shadows, and my image just overall turns out much darker than I intended. So for me, if I skip down to my darkest or second to darkest color and start laying in a map for my shades or my shadows, my image turns out almost exactly the way I wanted it to in terms of the color. Now what I'm doing here is pretty much what every hair tutorial will show you on YouTube or on any blog, and I'm using that flicking motion. I'm starting where the hair would be darkest, either where it would be in shadow or where it would be gathered. Here it's gathered in a ponytail, so I'm going to start laying in that shadow or those shades close to that ponytail, and then where that hair looks like it dips behind that wave that comes in front of it, I'm going to deepen that up some. I'm being careful to follow the direction of the lines that the artist has already drawn in the image. This is actually going to give us an easy way to create some movement. The lines are already there, so it's just why not use them? Don't try to fight against them, especially if you've printed this out at 100% and the lines are very dark. Now you'll notice that I'm coming in here a couple of times and I'm not creating one solid strip of color at the bottom. I'm actually layering these colors a couple of times, and so I'm getting some variation in the colors. This is going to give me a good guide and start making some individual strands of hair look like they're popping out. Now I'm coming in with the E42 and I'm going over the ends where that E43 stopped. What this is going to do is, because it's still wet, it's going to blend that E43 and that E42 together, and where I touch that E43 and start pulling it out, it's going to be a little darker, and where I end with that ending flick of the E42, it's going to be lighter. So I'm going to get a nice gradual change in color. I'm going to continue pulling those two colors together and bridging them with the E42. Where the solid lines in the image go from top to bottom, I'm going to go ahead and continue that line with that E42. These are naturally going to be almost like divots in the hair or individual sections of the hair that's already built into the image. So I'm just going to use them and follow along. Now this section of hair that I'm getting ready to work on, I want it to sit behind the rest of the hair. So I'm going to go ahead and start deepening up that so I know to keep that darker and let that section with all of those bright highlights stand out at the end. Now I'm going to come in with the E50 again, and I'm just going to warm some of these up. That extra layer of E50 is going to blend these two together and it's going to eliminate any hard lines. I am going to leave a few very, very bright sections, and that would be where the highlight or the light source is hitting that area the hardest. And now it's time to do it all over again. Now you could have stopped right here and she'd be a great wheat blonde. But if you want to deepen up her color or add more variation or just add more definition and more detail, you'll keep repeating these steps over and over again until you achieve the level that you're looking for. So I'm coming back in with that E43 again, and I'm going to start reinforcing some shadows and making some of the hair look like it's dipped behind other pieces and making some of them look like they're coming forward and just basically creating almost individual strands of hair. In some sections, I'm using broader strokes, and in others, I'm holding the marker vertically straight up and down so I can get just the very tip of that marker to touch the paper and I can create the finest lines possible. You'll notice that at each section, I'm going all the way down on one side of the line and I'm leaving a bright highlight on the other side of the line. And just like before, I'm going to come in with the E42 now and connect those and soften them. We're going to leave that section to dry now, and we're going to map out our next section by laying down our lightest color, which in this case is E50. And just like before, we're going to use our E43 to start mapping in our shadows or our darker areas. And please excuse my head. I was trying really hard to get a good angle for you guys, and without getting my head in the picture, and I don't think, well, I don't know. I did the best I could because I'm one of those has to get really, really close to my image to color it. Sometimes I swear it's like you couldn't come between me and that image if you tried. I'm almost laying on it, so hopefully it's not too bad. Just add in those shades or shadows on both sides, following the directions of the lines in the image, and then come in again with that E42 and start to connect or soften them out. Remember, grab the ends of that E43 and then pull them in towards the center. But remember to leave some of your highlight, otherwise your image is going to get overall darker, and then you'll have to pick a darker shade color, and you'll run into the same problem that I usually do. So just use that E42 to pull the ends of that N43 towards the center. And just like before, come back in with that E43 and now start creating even more depth and more shadow. Anywhere that the hair looks like it tucks in, you'll want to deepen that up. Like here, it's tucking behind that little mound that's coming out on the side there, so I'm deepening that. And then where it's coming from behind and you've got that nice bright strand laying on top, I'm deepening that. I just kept switching back and forth between that E43 and that E42 to lay down some shadow and soften it, and lay down some more shadow and soften it. And basically what I'm doing is I'm creating strands of hair. So if you think of it in that manner, it should make a little more sense. And now that that first section we colored is dry, I'm coming back in with the E43 yet again, and I'm adding even more depth. You'll notice that I am skipping sections here. I'm not doing one broad shadow across that whole edge. I'm actually skipping some areas. I'm using the very tip of the marker, and I am creating some breaks in color down there in that area, because even though all of that is kind of in shadow, there's still going to be different levels of shadow down there. So you don't want to just lay one solid hunk of color. And just continue doing that over the entire section. Now, like I told you, this just these sections of hair, I end up doing the crown and these two sections and then the one little section there on the side as a demonstration, and it took me about 40 minutes to do. So the hair, the more detailed you get, the longer it takes, but it's definitely worth it in the end, in my opinion. You may not want to spend that much time on it. I want to say it probably took me about 2 hours to do all of the hair. But like I said, if you want that level of detail, this is how I achieved it. And it definitely takes all of those layers of color because it takes that many passes to create those different depths of color. I've skipped ahead and finished off those sections, and now we'll be using E47 to add in the deepest, darkest shadows. And we're going to use this very sparingly because we already have a lot of color on the paper, and this is a very saturated color. It will quickly build up and get shiny. So this is the one that we're going to use in this particular image very sparingly. Now, I wanted to be able to show you guys how to do a blonde and a brunette. So for this example image, I did start off showing you a blonde, a dark blonde, a medium blonde, and how you can transition it into a brunette. So I've got a lot of color down. Now, if you wanted to go straight to a brunette, you would have used a lot more E43, less of the E42, and then you would have come in with your E47 sooner. However, for demonstration purposes, I wanted to show you guys the different levels. So I'm adding my deepest, darkest shadow, whatever it may be, whichever hair color you're doing, I'm adding it the most sparingly. I'm going to pick out sections that I want to look like they're the most inset, and I'm just going to add little flicks of color in there. Here it's at each divot where each section of hair is parted. And anywhere that the hair looks like it's tucked behind the other portions of hair. Sometimes it helps to just take a step back and look at the image, and it will stick out to you like a sore thumb where you need to add either more color or where you need to soften out a transition. And that's basically how I approach this hair. I approach each section the exact same way. Once a previous section has dried, I may go back in and add some more of that deepest, darkest shadow, but for the most part, this is the exact same steps for each section of the hair. And that's how I achieve realistic, really detailed hair. Now, not all images would call for this level of detail, but like I said, this image just screamed for detail. It's a great image. Again, it's Hairy Situation by Saturated Canary, and I just love it. I really hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I hope you learned something new. Don't forget, if you did, to thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. I've picked out some other videos that you might enjoy. I do have a speed coloring of this particular image. You can click the upper left-hand corner to watch that one now, or if you'd like, you can see how to create a Copic snowfall featuring our Merriest Wishes stamp set. You can find all of the featured W+9 supplies at W+9.com, and you can connect with us on our blog at stampawaywithme.blogspot.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.